Everybody listen to We're Not Wizards, because we are the best, and we're not wizards, no matter what anybody says. Goodbye.
So my son comes up to me the other day and he says, "Daddy?" And I say, "What, son?" He says, "Am I a stereotype?" And I grabbed him by his little fat head and I said, "Jethro, what do you think?"
That's all you really need, though.
That is all you really need. Hello and welcome to another episode of We Are Not Wizards. My name's Richard and I shall be your host for this lovely, wonderful evening that we have in May. Now joining me tonight I have a couple of what I can only say is upstanding, polite and wonderful gentlemen who are here to talk to me not only about the wonders of tabletop, but also to talk about putting the world's wrongs to rights. I have with me, and they're two distinguished and almost esteemed gentlemen. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them first before we start. My first guest is a gentleman. He's by the name of Gaby Marega. Now he has an illustrious career as a full-time stunt driver. You may have known him. He drove Kit several times in Knight Rider. He was the main truck driver in BJ and the Bear, and then he went on to voice Optimus Prime in the Transformers movies. So I've got Gaby with me, and then I've got his right honourable Lord Jerry Baker III, who, as you know, is one of the main founders of the tabletop movement, and we're here to describe all different types of movements tonight, good ones and bad ones. So good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us on.
I don't even know where I'm going with that.
That was Optimus Prime, right?
That was me trying to take a kind of an angle where it was going to be like kind of interesting. I was going to sound educational. I was going to sound educated. I was actually going to call you, Gaby, I was going to call you Lord Punnington III.
That'll work.
Because that'll work as well. Because I'm talking in a silly voice. I'm talking in a silly voice as normal because that's how I talk. So thanks very much.
It's all silly to Americans.
I was trying to be kind of educated and I was trying to be a bit stuck up. I was almost going to try and be a little bit snobby because Jerry and Gaby are from the Board Game Snobs, which is one of the highlights of my week, I would say. It's kind of like waking up in the morning and realising you don't have a cough. You know, it's that kind of highlight that we have. So I thought it was about time we would bring them on for potentially this very special, and I'm going to have to commit to this or either edit out later. So I'm going to put a couple of numbers in here. Our 398th episode, our 397th episode, or episode 400. Yay! So now I've covered all the bases. Just depending on when this goes out. How you doing, gentlemen? Anyway, how are you, Gaby? First of all, how the devil are you, sir?
How am I, or who am I? Nobody knows who I am. So let's just go with how am I? I'm well.
Who is any of us, Gaby?
Who are we in the stardust of the universe? We're just molecules made up, you know.
Is this where we're going? We're going with philosophy.
That's it.
Jerry,
going in.
Jerry,
we're going to talk about the origins. We're talking about the origins of life, right?
I don't know what's going on. Last I know, we were talking about movements, which is,
yes,
I would say that's my
especially.
favorite movement. And also, it begins every morning when I listen to the We're Not Wizards podcast, which is also a philosophical question to try to figure out what if he's not a wizard, then what exactly is Richard?
See, it depends, because it's always been, because we're at the end. We're at the end of the road, and things are coming to
Of
a
the
conclusion.
universe?
No,
I
I think
agree.
they're coming to a conclusion. We're 400 in. It's about time we explain ourselves, okay? The name of the podcast.
Have you never explained the name of the podcast this whole time?
I don't think I've really explained the name of the podcast. I think I've guessed it on other places, and I think people have asked, but there's two folds to the name of the podcast. The one is obviously the declaration that we're not wizards. And then there's the other declaration. If you look at
that's a rather general declaration. You could say, like, we're not rocket scientists. And yes, that's true.
yes, but then it comes in, if you actually look at the domain name, the pronunciation is slightly different. And, we were not wizards.
I never thought
So-
of that. So are you a retired wizard? Is that what you're alluding to? Or a wizard that was for some reason kicked out of the guild?
He's
Maybe it's a
guildless.
couple of different things. Maybe it is could be the possibility that maybe I have the last 399 shows been lulling people into a false sense of security.
You've certainly been lulling people into something, that's for sure. Your smooth, calm voice, that accent that you have for someone like myself is just it's borderline intoxicating. I say intoxicating. I'm on my second mint julep
Intoxicating.
right
You
now.
must be intoxicated.
I am. I got it. Anytime I thought it.
really
I thought it appropriate.
I've made several comments about ASMR. Are you familiar with that?
I am familiar. I believe that they were a techno funk band from the 1980s,
Yes.
and then they came back with actually people kind of doing this and going.
I think you're thinking
So
of REM.
I'm just gonna unzip my zip.
Ah, yes. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. I'm falling asleep right now. That is
And
making
it has
making
people
my
doing
brain
that all the
tingle
time.
right there. Your
It's just
voice is
fantastic.
very good for ASMR though, because it's soft in a pleasant way, and your Scottish lilt is that the word lilt? It's very pleasant to the ears.
I think
you
it's an
just need to
acceptable
go
thing.
from left ear to right ear, and then put it on YouTube. You'll be you'll have way more downloads than you have right now.
Yeah, this board game thing. You need to get out of that, Richard. Your true calling is putting middle-aged men who have tendinitis to sleep at night.
Let's talk download numbers. What are you getting?
That's private now. Don't be asking.
Clearly not enough if I'm asking you guys on.
Exactly. Like you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel.
I'll be like, okay, let's level. Okay, let's level here, okay? When we planned this out originally, okay, I had the BGG awards in mind. Not for myself, because I don't have the community. But I was thinking, right, I hedged my bets wrong, gentlemen. That's what's happened. Was that what was
Clearly.
going to happen was that I was going to have, I was hopefully going to have somebody on and say, okay, and the highly nominated, BGG podcast guys from Board Game Snobs. And it turned out that you're as popular as I am, because neither of us appeared in the list. And then, but to top it off, everybody else did. So Board Game Barrage
Who?
did. Yeah. And exactly.
You should have went for either Kellen or
you know-
Dan Hughes or Mike.
Yeah.
Somebody besides us.
Dan Hughes has like
Spadoodle.
18 podcasts. That guy creates a podcast every weekend, and one minute's about board games, the other minute's about ranking trash he found out in his yard, or extra virgin olive oil that somebody threw on his car or through his windshield or something. I don't know. That man.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think
there's anything wrong with
that.
it either. I enjoy it. I enjoy it greatly. It's just British television shows have they're known for going for like 4 episodes and then calling it that's the season, that's the finale. I feel like that's how That's how Dan Hughes does his podcast. He'll start one, do a few episodes. Okay, start another. But one of these days, one of them is going to stick because I listen to all of them.
You did just have Ben Maddox on, though, and that was quite possibly one of the best things I've heard in a long time.
Let me tell you, I love Ben Maddox.
Let me tell you that if me and Ben Maddox probably met in person, then there would be lots of cuddling going on in gaming.
Ben Maddox, yeah.
There's something about the voice, and you know he'd take care of you. You know he would take care of you, and he'd be suggesting things as well. He'd be suggesting a quick walk out in the country and stuff like that.
Suggesting things like subliminally or what?
He'd just come out and just say,
doing?
"Let's go for a walk." He's just like that's the kind of person that he is. He's kind of like this is what I'm just bearing my entire soul here, but Ben is one of these people that I think deserves somebody to look at him and go, that's really good. Let's see how we can put this all over the place and put him places. Because there's a certain kind of nuance and there's a certain way that he carries himself in the interviews, and he's always speaking to these wonderful designers that I would never have the courage to ever. My concern is if I was speaking to half the people that he spoke to, I would sound more like an idiot than I already sound. And I don't want to sound like that. I don't want to be that idiot. So I guess going back to my original point is that I was expecting you the both of you, to pull your finger out, to get stuff done, and to actually appear as finalists in the Board Game Geek.
First off,
yeah.
Oh, speaking of movements, here we go.
Okay. That's the classiness there.
Did you not know that joke? Oh, you've got to. I'm sorry to cut across you, Jerry, but Gabby, do you not know the joke about the incontinent math teacher?
Apparently not.
You tried to work it out with a pencil?
I'm writing
Been
that
there,
down.
done that.
No, it's constipated. I got that wrong. I
have to ask you, as an American, I'm fascinated with Scotland.
Right.
And
although we didn't know where it was at until last week.
No, well, this is our thing. Like me and Jerry started doing like hurried research on like where is Scotland, and you know what? It's not Ireland. We learned that.
See, okay, this is an issue. Now we have a lot of American listeners, and the issue that you've got right is that and I'll speak in fluent American for this. Is y'all education system teaches us that y'all think that England is the big country and that Scotland's part of England, and that's just wrong. It's wrong in so many levels.
William
and I still
Wallace
get
fixed
people,
that, right?
It's a slight annoyance. It's a slight annoyance. It's like a paper cut that somebody poured lemon juice over it and then they come over and say, "Oh, I'm really sorry," and they pour vinegar on it instead. We have a very, very different identity. And I thought, and this is what kind of bugs me a little bit, and you can maybe either kind of agree or disagree with me, is that for a country such as the United States of America, where you all have your individual states and your identities and things like that, that I would have thought that you would have been more open to having places joined together, having their own kind of identities and stuff. I didn't think there would be a likelihood for a confusion, but you guys have been told that we're part of England for years, and I just don't think that's ever going to change. But we're on the same island, and it's really weird because Ireland itself is to the left of Scotland.
To the left.
And Scotland and England are joined together.
Go up and turn left. There you go.
There you go.
So, okay. So as a Scottish is okay, are you is it okay, who is more important to you as like a Scottish person? Is it William Wallace or Rob Roy?
They don't have a queen, do they? Anymore? Do y'all have a queen?
Mary, Queen of Scots.
No.
We don't have a queen anymore.
Don't have a queen anymore.
We don't
William
have a queen
Wallace.
anymore.
Are you team William Wallace or team Rob Roy?
Well, see, this is where it gets confusing because being on team William Wallace suggests that you're a big fan of Mel Gibson. Likes a drink, gets a bit racist.
A famous Australian, by the way, not even Scottish.
There's a brilliant story about William Wallace and a statue in Stirling, and I'll tell you after I've gone through this. But basically, but being on the hashtag Rob Roy means that you not only get, Liam Neeson, I will find you, but you also get.
Now, a famous Irishman, by the way, not even Scottish either.
He's not even Scottish either. He's, he's like, he's kind of like the Irish Sean Connery. Because Sean Connery, I mean, the great
Scotsman.
But he never ever changed his accent. He's like, I was always amazed. Okay, now we're going off on tangents, but that is fine because we don't even need to talk about board games. But I was always amazed at the fact that Sean Connery got an Oscar for his role in The Untouchables. Always amazed at that.
That's a great Kevin Costner movie. It's a great Kevin Costner movie. And
Kevin Costner was a great actor.
He's still great.
Sean Connery, on the other hand, just went, "Oh, you're messing with a J, pal," and who would claim to be him who he's not? And that was it. And
Elliot Ness.
And there's the bit with Andy Garcia, who's even tried. He's kind of putting the accent on, and Sean Connery says he's probably his phrase you're not able to say nowadays. There's always one Stephen, and and that ruins the whole day. And he turns around and he goes, "That's better than being kind of an Irish stuck-up pig." Which is apparently still fine to say, but
we expected you to sound like Sean Connery.
Did. So, anyways, in the Scotland is
going
great.
Back.
Scotland's great for coming up with great actors, and yes. I have my top 5 Scottish actors for you. Actually, I don't know if some of these are actors; they're just famous people. Dan Hughes might be listening.
Did you get this off of BuzzFeed.com, Jerry?
Can we just circle back and can we finish off the fact that I still believe that I think Rob Roy, I would pick Rob Roy over William Wallace just because with Rob Roy you also get Tim Roth as well. There you go. Which is there you go. So that's the winning, and he's an English person. So we're talking about 2 Scottish films that don't have any Scottish people. And
that's just like our Marvel superheroes are all inhabited by English actors. So it all works out in the end.
Bad guys are. Tom Hiddleston. There you go. Is it? Yeah.
No, not Tobey Maguire. Who's the young Spider-Man?
The guy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I can't think of his name. He always looks like he's got something in his mouth.
He's English. He's English.
I don't watch Spider-Man. I haven't even watched it.
Why do you not watch Spider-Man?
I don't. Well, I mean, Spider-Man. I've watched the old Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire and all that, but I don't watch the Marvel superhero stuff because I'm an adult, and I just missed out on that Marvel stuff.
You just don't like fun. That's what it boils down to.
I don't enjoy fun. I don't enjoy that type
That's
of weird
fantasy. That's why Jerry
fantasy.
plays like the games he plays because he doesn't enjoy fun. No, let's play GMT's whatever this is. And let's read a rule book. Let's push some chits and read a rule book that's 300 pages long with no pictures.
I'd like to get back to my top 5 Scottish actors. Please.
Tom Holland is an English accent.
Tom Holland, yes. Well, the number one Scottish actor is Sean Connery. That's just number one. That's case closed, right?
Nope.
Ewan McGregor. No. Ewan McGregor.
Nope. Okay, top 5.
You're talking about James Bond, the original James Bond.
Nope, he's not even top 5. He's not even top 5 for me.
You're a foolish man. He's
not the best.
You ready for this?
Bond.
You ready for this?
Right, okay.
Honorary mention.
Sean Connery.
Dougray Scott. I feel sorry for the guy. He could have been James Bond.
Mission Impossible 2 ruined him.
Yeah, Mission Impossible 2 ruined him. Sorry, Dougray Scott. Okay, number 5, James McAvoy.
Oh God,
That's a good show.
I love that man.
That is a good show.
He's good.
I mean,
at
he's
everything.
good. He's good.
He's
No
better
Sean
than
Connery.
good. He's better than good. All right, number 4, Ian Glenn, the guy off of Game of Thrones, but I know him as what's his face? Oh man.
Oh
The
yeah,
detective.
clearly you know him.
I'm sorry.
Your prep showing.
My prep showing. I can't think of the name now. It'll come to me in a second. But Ian Glenn, you know who I'm talking
clearly
about.
an amazing actor. Yes, go ahead.
Just gonna leave you hanging there. I'm gonna check. Do you know what? While you're frantically, if you
He's frantically
if you read out your stuff
Okay.
slow enough, Jerry.
Ian Glenn. He was on Game of Thrones, and he did the
Stop. Go to the next
detective
one. You
trilogy.
can't remember anything.
Number 3, Ewan McGregor.
Okay, I'll give you Ewan or Ewan.
I don't know what I said.
Ewan.
Ewan. That's what I said.
Okay.
Ewan.
That's,
We were
that's
both wrong.
exactly.
You said Ewan. You
Ewan.
said
He
Ewan.
did say
I thought that's how you say it.
Ewan.
Ewan McGregor.
That guy.
Number
He's good.
3,
That's
Conor
number 3.
McGregor, the famous fighter, right?
No, he makes a good proper 12 though. Number 2. Are you ready for
That's
this?
Irish
He's not
anyway.
an actor, but he's probably he is the greatest host next to you, Richard. Can I call you Richard?
Yeah.
And if you were in Texas, we'd call you Dick, because that's the nickname for people named Richard. But I don't know if that translates to Scotland. You're just
Well,
Richard.
it does, but it usually ends up with us going outside and having a conversation about it, sweetheart.
Okay, so
Let us have a conversation about what you just called me, son.
the best Scottish host of any talk show host ever, Craig Ferguson.
Craig Ferguson. Now I'm with you with
I
Craig.
love Craig Ferguson.
Let's say about Craig Ferguson for a while, because Craig Ferguson, right?
Yes.
In all fairness, was one of these guys who never kind of appeared on anybody's radar at all. Like, he was never ever big. He was kind of big-ish in Scotland. I think he did comedy shows. He did a couple of acting shows. He did a film, a glorious film called The Big Tease, where he played like a hairdresser who was in charge of doing this kind of big competition he was trying to do, and he was trying to win this hair sculpting competition. It was a good film. It was a fun film. It was never going anywhere.
It's
and then
neither
he
here nor
disappeared.
there,
Neither here nor... Yes.
right?
That's
Yes.
a good one.
That is a good one. We're going to give that ding 1 point. You get another 5 of these, you win the microwave.
He was on the Drew
Gabby.
Carey show as well.
Yes.
He was. But on the other side of it, right, then he disappeared off. And then the next thing you know, right, and this isn't announced, all of a sudden he's this huge American chat show. We're all sitting there. People thought he'd like gone, disappeared. He'd ended up kind of getting a different day job altogether. You know, he just wasn't. And then all of a sudden he was like, Craig Ferguson, he's everywhere. He's a huge chat show kind of host thing. And I just wondered what's going on. So it's really funny. People in Scotland maybe have a different view of Craigie Boy.
Really?
Because he's just not on the radar as much as
Well, he
everybody
was on
else.
the
pretty much.
late show.
Craig
just to be
Ferguson,
fair,
to me,
he wasn't
was
like
the
prime
best
time.
late night talk show host ever. And the co-host that he had, Jeff, the little skeleton, that was awesome. I mean, that's basically what we modeled the Board Game Snobs after. Is I'm Craig and Gaby's the skeleton.
It's Craig and then Conan.
Except if you were a fat skeleton.
See?
That's just awful.
See?
bone.
Big bone.
I'm used to it.
Big
I'm
bone.
used to it.
Number
Big
1,
bone.
are you,
You know,
ready?
you remind me of my
Yeah, okay.
father, Jerry. He too insulted me as I grew up.
Oh, that's okay. I
That's
am
why
your
I
daddy.
cried. I cried.
Number
Wait.
1.
We need a drum. No, wait. We need a drum roll.
You need a drum roll for this.
We need a drum roll. We
Hey,
need a drum
Gaby,
roll.
clap your butt cheeks together.
Oh, let me start twerking. I'm twerking right now. Kelly McDonald.
David Tennant. I love
I was
David
not-
Tennant. I love
I was
David
not
Tennant.
expecting that.
You weren't expecting
I was not
David
expecting
Tennant?
that.
Why not? Do y'all not like David Tennant?
Jerry, now, come on. I know you. Oh, you're trying to be obscure and a hipster. You got David Tennant over Sean freaking Connery.
I'm going by quality, not quantity.
The Rock.
Wow.
James
Oh,
Bond.
The
Pick
Rock.
one.
Oh,
Doctor
The
No.
Rock. Oh, The
What?
Rock. Oh, please.
Entrapment. Are you
please.
freaking kidding me?
I watched Entrapment 4
Hunt for Red
times.
October, where he played a Russian with a Scottish. Ryan, most things on here don't react well to bullets.
What is that? What is that French? Come on.
I watched.
What are you even doing?
I watched Entrapment
The
4
prom
times
queen.
before I even knew Sean Connery was in it. All right, David Tennant.
In it
and
to win it.
David Tennant and Patrick Stewart. David Tennant.
More like
as
David 10 it, more like David 5 it.
Wow.
no.
Rankings go, right?
You
Am I
lose a
right?
point for that one.
Just give. Just give me a second. I'm just getting the
Don't
waiter.
erase my
I'm
point,
just getting,
Richard. Don't.
waiter. Can we have a saucer of cream here for table 5?
Okay,
Because
well,
that was catty.
okay.
need for
How
that.
about this? How about this?
All right, how about
Forget actors and actresses. What about Scottish scientists and philosophers? Did you know Robert Watson Watt invented the radar pretty much? And he was
What?
Scottish. Exactly.
He invented
Exactly.
the radar.
Well, not technically. It says he's considered
Surely
by many.
bats were there first of all.
Although-
Dolphins. Most
Oh,
porpoises.
wait, hey, Richard.
What?
Speaking of Mary, Queen of Scott,
Right.
right?
She invented the radar, did she?
No.
Well, maybe if she
She-
invented the radar, she would have seen
she-
like her impending death kind of coming as a big blip.
Did you know she, at 15 years old, was into marine life because she married a dolphin?
And now you're in the
That's-
negative.
That's true.
Oh, Lord. That's
AKA a French air, a dolphin? Anybody?
But Dan Thoreau right now is laughing his head off, but
he's
you're not.
laughing. French
no.
historians are laughing. A dolphin? Let's talk about world's famous dolphins.
I'd like to talk about an animal that is the national animal of Scotland.
Wait, I'm not done. Did you know that a Scottish person invented penicillin?
Yes.
Alexander Fleming.
Alexander Fleming. Do
He
you know
also
the-
did James Bond.
No, that was
that was
Ian.
Ian
That was
Fleming.
his cousin.
No.
That was his
Oh, for
cousin.
goodness sake. Did you know that
Did
we
you?
invented tarmac as well?
Tarmac.
Do you know? Yeah?
That's how you land a plane.
That's what the planes land on?
That's what the roads are made of. Come on.
We call that asphalt. It's,
Well, it wasn't.
it's not tarmac down here in Texas. It's asphalt.
It's definitely somebody's fault that you named it the wrong thing because it's called tarmac.
The Scottish say arse.
Oh, it's arse fault.
Arse fault.
It's not called that.
No, that's what it's called here. That's what it's called here. And
It's
also,
not called that.
y'all's famous national
Okay.
animal. I want to talk about that, Richard.
What's that?
You don't know what your national animal is?
It's a duck.
No.
It's a unicorn.
It's a unicorn.
You know, it's a unicorn.
Yeah. Do you know what a group of unicorns is called?
A
Nothing.
rainbow.
Because they don't exist.
Wow.
Why did y'all pick a unicorn?
Because their unicorns are cool.
It's like
I
a
don't know
Pegasus.
about that.
Unicorns are cool. It's like a horse with a huge horn in it. I mean, what's not cool about that? I mean, you can mock, right? But you don't have literally every single child round about the age of 6 wanting to like draw, your national
Exactly.
animal.
Did you know
Unless it's in the classroom, unless people go, yeah, let's look at our bald eagle.
Everybody
Jerry-
likes that.
Jerry
bald
It's a
eagle.
Richard.
stupid sounded name for an animal.
It's a
Bald eagle.
bald
Richard.
eagle. It's a
did
majestic
you know
animal.
Did you know Jerry saved one of our national birds
I'm a
just
hero.
a couple weeks ago?
Have you
No,
ever
you
saved?
didn't.
Have you ever saved a unicorn, Richard?
Yeah, of course you can.
Of course you can. In your dreams.
Well, of
Corsicana.
course you can.
That's Napoleon's homeland, right? Corsican.
Yes, he was a Corsican.
It's -5 now, Gabby. Come on,
Gabby,
you're
you're
just
dying.
lost.
I didn't
Losing
get-
points.
I didn't
You
get
know.
to talk about Ben Maddox. Y'all skipped over Ben Maddox. I had notes
We're
on
just
Ben
going
Maddox.
everywhere. It's just like we're just going everywhere. Right,
wanna
okay,
go-
well, let's establish one thing, okay?
Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
Unicorns kind of exist. If people believe enough, right, then they must exist. Because
I
there's so
agree.
many of them. There's so many of them. There's so many pictures. There's even films of the Legend film with, a very young Tom Cruise in it.
Yes.
And that was all about unicorns, so that kind of shows that they kind of exist there. I reckon
I don't know what it's all about.
that people would rather have unicorns existing than bald eagles.
Well,
Yes.
you reckon something.
If you
If
put
you
it
reckon
to a
something,
vote.
Scottish, I'm saying if you reckon
only they
something,
flew.
it's got to be pretty serious.
I
But a
prefer,
bald eagle is
I prefer a
majestic.
bicorn.
It's just a bird. It's just another bird. You could just get another. But you know what? At the moment, your national animal is a duck. That's where I'm just putting that. Anyway, Ben Maddox. Sorry, Jerry.
All right,
You
go
go
ahead,
back. You
Jerry.
talk
Ben
about.
Maddox. Ben Maddox.
Yeah.
I listen to his musings, his reviews. He's very verbose. I feel like every time he's speaking, he's like brainwashing me. I don't realize. I think Ben Maddox is one of the few people out there who's trying to be. He's very open about what he wants to be in the industry. But the way that he is, he should just move to the South here in the United States and just start a cult. Because the way that he speaks, as smooth as he is, he'd get a following pretty quickly. We're big on that. He's a very intelligent and very.
Would he move? Would he move to Waco?
Well, that's a great show, by the way. But yeah, he is one of the, and not excluding yourself, Richard, because I think you're kind of the premier.
He's the interview connoisseur. Richard is.
Yes, thank you, Yoda. He's a great. You're a great interviewer because you tend to stifle your own personality and your own energy to allow the guest to kind of
Shine
and spill
as
that out.
we are right now.
And so you come across as being uninteresting. I can't say that correctly. And but rather you are. You do a great job. You're a great interviewer, Richard. You're not even really an interviewer. You're more like an interrogator. It's like when people are around you, they feel the need to spill their guts. Ben Maddox, however, Ben Maddox, that guy's scary. Like I would be scared to be on his show because he asks questions that are so thoughtful and meaningful, and they're like things that I don't want to think about. I feel like if I was on the show, I'd just burst into tears.
He lost the Golden Geek, so it's more like has Ben Maddox.
Whoa.
Oh, that was mean.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I did that for pun purpose. I only did that to get myself a point.
Gaby doesn't even know who Ben Maddox is. He's too loquacious for him.
That's
he's
false.
He's too bitter. He's too bitter because he looked at the list and he says, "How do we get nominated on the BGG
Have you listened to
list?"
Jerry? Jerry's bitter. That's why he likes Ben so much because we listened to Ben on your interview and it was amazing and we agreed with everything Ben said.
Which is something that's rare for me. I'm often scared when I agree with somebody, but Ben actually said something once that really resonated with just the way that we view board games and reviews as a whole, because he often talks about the whole media aspect of the board games, of just board game media. He said that reviews are a call for restraint, which he basically stole that from me, because I've been saying that for years. I just hadn't said it that particular way. He took that thought from my brain.
You didn't say it on a podcast.
Or in front of enough people to listen. Or enough people who cared or listened. I think you murmured it at the bus stop when you were like having a cry.
He said it to Enrique like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
Turned around to Enrique and said, board game reviews that are about restraint. And Enrique said, what are you talking about, kid?
Put some sleeves
and
on.
He grabbed him by the shoulder and went, Enrique, come here. Come here.
Speaking of Enrique, about 5 seconds before we started this podcast, he texted me and says, do you know that Jesus bowls? And I said, what? And then he sent me a picture of a movie on Blu-ray entitled The Jesus Rolls, which I guess is a offshoot of The Big Lebowski. And he sent that to me. Literally, I haven't seen the kid or talked to him in a month. and this is the first thing he sends me. He doesn't call to check on me. He just calls to let me know that Jesus is a bowler. And also he knows that I bowl.
So if people are listening to us for the first time on Richard's podcast, what do you think they're going to gain?
I think they're going to gain that we are just as friendly and loving as Richard is. We're trying to siphon off of Richard's credibility. Richard's a credible person. He's been doing this.
I'm hardly a credible person.
This is his 400th episode. This is the 400th episode.
Now you've
300 more than us.
Because I now have to edit it in to make sure it is episode.
I want this to be the 400th episode. Because
we could make it the episode 400 then, and then we could do that.
I want that to be the case.
That would be amazing.
The difference, right, the fundamental difference between me and Ben is that Ben leads the conversation.
Is that Ben got nominated for a Golden Geek?
If he was, right, and apart, yeah, okay, there's that as well. Thank you, sick burn. You know, I
love
need
you,
saucer
Richard.
of cream, please, waiter, and can I have some after sun as well? Because that, you know, I currently feel I should be wrapping myself on tinfoil because that was just so
You need a
so
weighted
deliciously
blanket to lessen that
burnage.
anxiety.
Anyway, the difference between me and Ben Maddox is Ben Maddox is like leading the dance. He knows where he wants to take the dance. Yeah?
Yes.
Whereas I genuinely take depending on what the guest wants to do. If the guest wants to do a foxtrot, we'll do a foxtrot. If they want to do a flamenco, we'll do a flamenco. If they want to do American smooth, we're doing American smooth. I will generally let the conversation go where it wants to go, and then it lasts as long as it needs to last, and then it finishes up. And there's no kind of agenda. So, and sometimes, and I spoke to some people about this, and they said that sometimes guesting on podcasts, especially board game podcasts, can be like doing the PR circuit, because all of a sudden you'll see 4 or 5 interviews across different podcasts with the same person who's currently going to got a project going. But my view on that is, and I always do this, and I joke, it's actually a joke in the show, like we're 40 minutes into the show and we still haven't talked about the game that you're come here to talk about in the first place. But the reason for that is, I want to find out about these people. Because it takes a certain type of person to put their ass out there and say, I've generated a product, I want you to consider giving me money for that product. And I think just by having somebody on and just talking about their game or talking about their product devalues that person and all the trials and tribulations and struggles and everything like that they went through. Which is why we have the conversation, and sometimes if it means talking about them as a person and talking about where they came from and their education and what it was like growing up, then I think that gives a better understanding that drives the reason that people do things, and that's why I do it. Whereas Ben, obviously, he targets generally a lot more people who are well established, and he doesn't generally speak to many media people, if any kind of media people at all.
That is true. He tends to shy away from that, and his crowd of people that he focuses on are these.
Yeah.
He does interviews with people that I would never think to interview, which we don't do interviews for obvious reasons because we can't stay on topic long enough. Which ones begs the question,
We've done
Richard,
2.
is that we've done 2.
Richard is our 3rd.
Why do you do this?
Why do I do this?
For the glory, obviously.
Obviously. You've done 400 episodes. This is your 400th episode.
What made you settle into the genre of interviews? Because that's what I was thinking about. And I was watching Matthew Jude he's on Watch It Played. He's in with Big Gaming now.
He's sexy.
So like he had this thing. He talked about how Heavy Cardboard won, Golden Geeks podcast, and he was like, they should. It was kind of a joke because he was promoting This Game Is Broken, but he said they should promote informational podcasts with like Dice Tower News, this stuff like that. Then you have several interview style podcasts, which would be Richard and Ben and several others. Even Sporadically Bored, they do their banter, then they interview people. Then I don't know what we would be classified as. whatever.
Entertainment.
What a random
No. Don't sell yourself short here, because there's genuinely people that need what you guys provide. Because we were talking.
Which is
this
what?
Came up
Which
in
is
a,
from
in
an
a
outside
Reddit. This came up
perspective.
in
What is it?
No, this came up in a Reddit thread, and you see it all the time. And this is one thing, I don't know, it kind of annoys me that people haven't categorized kind of podcasts a little bit more. Because all I see is, I see the thing on Reddit, or I see it on a board game Facebook page. What's the best kind of board game podcasts? And people go, oh, shut up and sit down. And they say, oh, The Secret Cabal. And they say this, the same things again and again and again. And you're just like going, well, but it depends on the question, what the question you're asking is. Because in terms of what kind of podcast you're looking for. Now, somebody said to me, right, I'm looking for a podcast that just talks about games. And I want to listen to people talk about games. And that's it. Now, I can go to the very dry side, which is so very wrong about games. And they just talk about games. There's no personality there. Very little personality there at all. That's how they run things. They talk about games. They give their opinions. They've done very, very well, and they have a very good following, okay? Then you get you start to go down or up the scale in terms of personality, and you get your board game barrage, which is kind of like... They're guys that give the opinions, but the opinions are very, very personality type driven things. Yeah, when Kellen gives his opinion, it's not, he's coming in saying, here's my opinion, and this is why your opinion is completely wrong. And then you get into guys like yourself, where I really like your conversational style, because it is generally two people having the best time ever chatting about board games. And then you're learning and it's almost like you can learn about the personality types of your both your good selves. And it gives a real insight that if I'm enjoying the show and if I'm enjoying the podcast, there's a likelihood I'll also potentially enjoy the games that you guys are playing as well. So I listen, it's very, very difficult. Look, board games are fun to play, yeah? But board games themselves are really difficult, dry material to kind of actually talk about with any level of excitement, unless you've created the IP.
They're terrible to talk about.
What else do you like about us?
No, board games are terrible to talk about, and because they're so subjective, and as much as I have declared to Gaby that there is objective truth with various board games, that this game is obviously better than this game type thing. And
I think that most board game media find it necessary to be super positive, which is a good thing in the world. There's enough negative things in the world, but
do you think so?
I think so. It's like, they're all, clean cut, doing this, doing that, and super positive.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. It depends on who you float around. Because if I watched I heard Mike Delisio has been talking about Cloudspire and how he really likes the game and he's really enjoying it and everything like that.
Mike.
And Mike
Delicioso.
Cool. He is.
That guy.
Mm-hmm.
He is. I told Jerry this the other day, and I don't mean this as flattery. I mean it as fact. Mike Delicio, had to clear my voice just then. I'm getting choked up just talking about him.
Everybody does.
He is one, I'm sad that he's just now a new member of the Dice Tower, because he is he is positive. He is very eloquentious in his speech. And he just has a voice, and voice and all that stuff matters, especially in podcasting. And now he's on video. I don't know how that works, Mike. Sorry. But he's pleasant looking as well, fortunately. So, but
I've met him. I've actually met him. I've been in his
I listened to your podcast with him, and he is always funny. He's always witty. Like Mike, to me, is one of the perfect, like, straight men of podcasting. I love that guy.
I'm glad that the Dice Tower finally decided to add some personality to their group.
Ooh, that's a bit.
What?
That is
What?
a bit harsh.
Another sick burn.
That is a bit harsh.
Another
All right,
sick burn.
Richard. All right, Richard.
That is a bit
Did you not
harsh.
listen to Z on Sporadically Bored? I like Z.
I love Z. I think Z.
Yeah.
I think and he loves any
I
game
feel
that's
like I
under
know
30
him,
minutes.
and I can go up to him and talk about anything.
You just trust anybody
Yeah.
who's bald. That's your biggest downfall.
No, this is my
Anybody
thing.
who's bald, you think it's your
wanna
best
know
friend,
something?
like you're in some sort of club, like the men's hair club.
This is my thing, and
a member of that club. I'd like to point out that this is very, very well covered up, Jerry. And I know not all of us are like you, who basically go around like a lion.
Oh my god!
I can't even
he
run
brags
my
about his
fingers
hair
through
on a
my
nos.
hair. They get stuck.
I don't even want to know about because this is turning a corner, which I don't want to see. Anyway,
Let's go
I'm going to
back.
cut across everybody, and I'm going to say that going back to Cloud Spire quickly was that.
Okay, fine. This is your show.
I've listened
Go
now
ahead.
to a couple of reviews, like No Pun Included, who basically said this was a disaster of a game. So it very much. So I don't think everything's positive. I think it depends on the level that you're at. I think when you're beginning out, I think it's pretty difficult for you to give a really, really harsh negative review of something.
Yeah.
Because people are less likely to say, well, I'm not sending that guy a game because, last game that we sent to him, he said it was crap.
Yeah.
So I kind of get that. But also I firmly kind of fall on the Ben Maddox kind of side, which is it's not your job to be sugarcoating everything. It's your job is to, as you said, is to make people restrain on whether or not they purchase and stuff. So it's different.
And that was my thought. Ben Maddox stole my thought. Is that why you don't do reviews, Richard? Or is it because your opinion just sucks? Why don't you do reviews?
Well, it just goes to show how interested and how much research you do, because I have an entire blog.
He talks
where
about
I've written
Charterstone on his
reviews.
Oh, if it's
YouTube.
written, not spoken, I don't care about it.
And I've
sorry.
done videos as well. I've done
Richard.
a couple of videos.
Richard.
Yeah.
I did do some research. Go ahead, Gaby.
I really enjoyed your media empire talking about just the control, because it's so true. It's like, even between me and Jerry,
Yeah.
we both work very full-time jobs. Our podcast really is just a labor of love. We love being around each other. We love talking, and we want everyone else to hear what we have to say. So it's just very clear. But it takes a lot of work to operate Instagram, YouTube, Tumblr, Snapchat. I mean, all these various things to try and get your, you know what? If nobody's listening. Hey, Jerry, nobody's listening to us. We need to promote ourselves. It takes a lot of work to do all that stuff, to be a media empire. And that's what Jerry has often said. And we give Dice Tower a hard time. We give Dice Tower a hard time.
That was Australian. accent.
Right, exactly.
I'd like to point that was
That was
almost
a Mel Gibson accent.
Yeah, I mean,
We give
I'm
Dice
thinking you were trying to
Tower
go London.
hard accent.
London.
London.
We give the Dice Tower a really hard time.
No,
Yeah.
you got to go. I prefer Jason Statham. Gotta go. Right? Megalodon.
I just like.
Shark.
Have you seen the film Snatch?
Of
Love
course. Of
Of course
course.
you've seen the film Snatch. Yeah. Call me Turkish.
Call me Turkish. but I
Call
was,
him Tommy because he thinks he's named after a gun.
but I was,
For me now, he's named after a ballerina.
but Jerry often says Tom Vassaloraptor is a businessman, and he knows what he's doing as far as that's concerned. And to do all the things that Dice Tower has accomplished has required a lot of work. Whereas for us, and you and Ben talked about this, like, maybe it's Sporadically Bored. I get all of y'all confused over there in Europe. But y'all talked about the difference between, these podcasts that you're doing it for the love of it or you're doing it for work. But you're trying to, at the same time, it'd be nice if you could make a living off of it, right?
I don't know if I'd want to.
No?
I don't know if I'd want to. Because it's a very much a buyer's market. Very, very much a buyer's market. And there's also, there's very much, it's very much like it's very much like Ben says, it's a dead man's shoes kind of situation. There are only 4 or 5 kind of big players that are kind of getting kind of, you know, like I said, your heavy cardboards of this world, your kind of, your dice towers and stuff like that. And you know, even kind of Rodney Smith and kind of Watch It Played. And, you know, they're doing, so a lot of them are doing previews and stuff like that. A lot of them are doing kind of paid for videos and stuff. Not reviews, not paid reviews. Nobody's kind of, you know, not a lot of them are doing kind of that kind of nonsense. But I wouldn't like to, but there's always somebody who's willing to do it. Everybody else is kind of like fighting for the scraps, and the price point can be very, very low. It can be quite difficult. It can be easy to end up in a situation, I think, where you're doing like 70-hour weeks in order to get the same amount of money that if you just work down the local McDonald's or something like that. Because I know of a lot. True. I know people that work kind of full time on it, and they work full time, but you know, they're getting money through like a Patreon, or they're getting money through like a Kickstarter or something like that, but they're still having to supplement their income by doing kind of preview work and other work off to the side as well. So,
have you ever thought about a Patreon?
I've got one.
You do?
Oh, yeah, and that reminds me, if you've got a chance, please donate to Dan Hughes' Patreon. He needs to get some speakers for his computer, his Hewlett-Packard.
Yeah.
Like, that would be, like, if we could get a Patreon where enough people supported us, because it is not cheap. I mean, like, literally, just the other day, my Podbean account re-upped me, and it was $100 and something. Jerry, you need to pay me like half of that, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
And then we have our website, boardgamesnobs.com, which requires money. Then, not to mention the mixer, the microphones, and all that stuff. Like this stuff, it costs money. We have not paid. I mean, it's just, we've just done it for love of the game so far.
Yeah, but what the deal is, nice though, is that we do this because we're amateurs and we enjoy it.
Obviously.
And
we have no aspirations that we're going to someday be along the levels of anybody else, basically.
Right. And the fact is that we would do this whether nobody listened or not. We were doing the same podcast when 5 people were listening to us as we are now that 50
we love
billion
to hear
to
ourselves
us.
Speak more than anyone else.
Right. And I mean, it cracks us up more than anybody else. And I have to go back to what Gaby had talked about regarding Tom Vassell. Often I have said that Tom Vassell is a very wise businessman, and he has done things for the board game community that nobody else has, because he very strategically got people involved in board game media that were talented and allowed them to kind of put their act out there, and people come and watch. He's kind of like the news of board games. Whereas now, when I don't want to say I fell out of love with the Dice Tower, but I stopped listening to the Dice Tower simply because, as Ben Maddox and several other people, even Dan Hughes has pointed out in the past, the more that you're into board gaming, the less that you are into that type of media. You're more into the person. You're more into being entertained and hearing what's going on and having personalities. And so in my mind, that's kind of what our podcast, the Board Game Snobs, is always about. We're about restraint. We're telling you, don't buy this game. It sucks. Don't follow the hotness. And we're more into the person listening and becoming more attached to us, because we have a small community of people who interact with us very frequently, and it's almost a measure of pride to know that we know our listeners or our fans, so to speak, by name. We interact with them on Instagram and on our Facebook and so forth, and it has created.
That's very presumptuous.
Yeah, well, it created a community that
listeners.
We feel like these people buy games because they know that we are honest about our opinions. We're not.
We have impeccable taste. Come on.
We do have impeccable taste, and it's just one of those. It's just one of those things that it feels like we have created a community around ourselves, and through our high quality podcasting and our opinions, and that has enriched people's lives, dare I say, much like yourself, Richard.
We're about.
I haven't. I mean, the thing with me is I haven't created the community.
That's interesting because
it's very hard.
I listen to you religiously, Richard, and I don't say that just because I knew of you before Dan Hughes and all those other English podcasters kind of pointed you out. I listened to your podcast simply because I enjoyed your style of interview and just the fact that it was always very nice that you'd have people on and have this very nondescript discussion with them, like let them talk and let it go where it wants to. What was the guy that used to interview actors? What was the name of that show, Gaby? You know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I can't remember.
I can't remember the guy's name, but that's kind of how it feels like. It feels like you're catching people off guard and putting a mic in front of their face and just letting them talk for an hour and a half. And I enjoyed that. That's the type of media that I consumed rather than listening to the Dice Tower podcast or Shut Up and Sit Down.
James Lipton.
Thank you. You're the James Lipton of board game podcasting. That's who you are. And that's the type of media that we listen to, even though there are a few select members of the board game media industry that I respect their opinion. Like I will wait and listen to like Efka, for instance. I don't listen. Yeah. I don't listen to his podcast. I don't listen to his show very often. But when I'm looking for a game, I will often go and see what his wife has to say about it, because she is a very. There's something about them as a whole. If they recommend a game, I feel pretty confident about it. They've not led me astray too often.
That's why we gave up on calling ourselves in any way, shape, or form reviewers, because you want a reviewer like Elaine and Efka can like break down a game, describe it. They'll use adjectives and nouns I didn't know existed in describing a game. And it's just like, wow, they really know what they're doing. And I'm just like, yeah, I kind of liked it quite a bit. It was a pretty good game. And that's it.
Well, that's the kind of opinion that I respect, though, when it's coming from yourself, Gaby. I mean, I like that kind of, this is really fun. I can pick it up.
You like the country
I'm very clever. I can lift 2 of these kind of thing.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed that.
I like that kind of.
I want you to know, Richard, that not all Texans talk like that. It's just the smart ones.
Oh, hey, Jerry, do your Matthew McConaughey.
I'm not doing my Matthew McConaughey. Not
do
for
it.
this.
Richard needs to know. We did. I did Sean Connery for the Scots. Welcome.
No, I can't. I don't do.
I don't think that was Sean Connery. I don't think that was Sean Connery. I wasn't sure. The thing is, right, is that I do this because it's fun, and I do it because I like speaking to people, and I don't think it's ever going to be any bigger than what it is. I don't think I'm going to have that.
How many downloads you get?
I don't think I'm going to have that eureka moment where all of a sudden I get 20 million downloads. And I also think, and I spoke to about this recently, and it's one of the reasons that...
wait till you release this one.
Well, it's one of the reasons why the podcast is kind of going to have a little holiday for a while, is because I think people like listening about people talking about games. And I think the interview podcast kind of thing is it kind of takes you so far. And I think if you're happy doing that and speaking to people all the time, then that's fine. But I think you get to a point where, and you can be, you can get to a point where I like connecting with people, so I have a connection so I can go on and talk to people afterwards. And sometimes with the way that people are going for the PR and the marketing approach, you can speak to people and you never ever hear from them again, and they were only ever on so they could talk about their shitty product, which can sometimes be a little bit of a kind of a, oh, okay. But at the same time, I can honestly put my hand on my heart and say I've made some genuinely really, really good friends that I hope to kind of like stay in contact with for as long as I possibly as I possibly can. When we first started out, the interesting thing is when it started off, I was me and another guy called Colin who were doing the podcast, and then what happened
to him? What happened to him?
He's still about. And
okay, because me and Gaby were talking about
friends.
Richard,
and we figured you had a row.
Richard,
no, it's not like that. It's just time. It's
Richard,
time.
I meant to talk to you about your first episode.
Mm-hmm.
You clearly had no microphones or anything.
But clearly, it was clearly bad.
You just turned on your computer and like pressed record.
It was a snowball. We had a snowball plugged in, but I knew nothing about Audacity and sound quality and noise reduction.
Well, that was my thing. It's a big learning curve. Like me and Jerry on our first podcast, Jerry had an idea of what he wanted Board Game Snobs to be about. He tried in that first episode. I think I threw him off course because I just wanted to talk with my buddy Jerry. Jerry was trying to be like this board game connoisseur, mostly sewer. That's an old family joke.
Yeah, that's exactly what we wanted. I started the podcast with the idea that we were going to be the contrarians, the people who were griping about all the hot games that were out there and going, this is why you don't need to buy them. And for some reason.
And we had a single lavalier mic that we shared between us. And as time went on, like I was like, all right, Jerry, we got to buy some microphones. They're a little bit expensive. I need $50 from you to get some decent microphones. Then I bought a mixer, and now you hear the high quality product you are receiving.
And also, we completely dropped the whole idea of us being connoisseurs of anything. We started drinking during the podcast, and then it kind of went downhill.
I think it's just really, really difficult to be negative about stuff all the time. I think it's easy to be. I think it's easier to be passionate about something than it is to be negative about something and finding the fault. Colin's fine, by the way. Colin's doing okay.
Does he have a podcast?
Lockdown is.
Does he have a podcast?
No, he doesn't.
Oh, no, he's not doing fine.
If you don't have
lost
a podcast, interest.
We can't really associate.
No, he's doing fine. He's doing fine. It just what happened was that we were finding it more and more difficult to kind of record, to find time to record, and also stick with a format where you're kind of playing games, and then we would not get around to playing certain games, and then from whatever reason the interview stuff kind of took off, and then there's been other things that have occurred which meant every time you kind of go back, it's kind of like, oh, it's not happened again. Whether it's going to happen again in the future, I don't know. But I continually toy with the thought of having a kind of a wingman.
You need
or
it.
Wing person.
You need it bad, Richard. You need a co-host. That's your key to success. If you would, two things. Get you a co-host who will do sound effects and tell dry jokes and puns.
Zoinka, zoinka.
And interrupt you at inopportune times. And also, to grow your fan base, take to Twitter and just start calling people out. That's the two key things you need to start doing. Get on Twitter and get a co-host. And you're gold. That golden geek, you can taste it, Richard. You can.
I don't want a golden geek. I don't need to go.
No. What do you need?
Well, this is our thing. That's what we discussed in our previous podcast.
I need the golden geek, Richard. I need it to validate my pride.
You do a fantastic job.
I know I do a fantastic job. I need recognition,
Richard.
I don't think you realize how good you guys are.
You're talking nonsensical, Dick.
We don't.
I need
actually,
that golden geek.
We don't, because we only get a few downloads a week.
I don't need it. Why would I need it? What difference does it make?
So people often refer to, okay, so I was talking to Kellen Laker, I think is his last name, the Board Game Barrage. Like I messaged him on Instagram, DM, and he's like, Dan Hughes is talking about y'all. And at that time, I knew Dan Hughes from This Game Is Broken. I didn't know that he was no longer on that. He's like, no, sporadically bored. And I was like, and that's the problem. There are so many board game podcasts. I was like, I knew This Game Is Broken. I did not know Sporadically Bored. I was like, okay. So I started to listen. Then from Sporadically Bored, then I heard of Jerry knew you before, but I didn't know of We're Not Wizards. And it's like, it just, one thing connects to another. And it's like, there are so many board game podcasts. It really is. It's amazing that anybody hears anything.
And I knew of Dan Hughes just simply because he's the elderly man who has his daughter review games for him on the Dice Tower. So I knew of
you
Dan.
Knew Cora. So nice. You knew Cora.
I knew Cora.
Dan and Cora.
That is a great idea. If my children would behave better, because I have some really cute kids, I could use them to review games, but they're just not into board games.
Not to mention your actual story with your children, but yeah.
I know. Yeah, because and so that's just how it is. But Dan Hughes has it figured out. He has it figured out. He is the
support Dan Hughes Patreon. We suggest.
Yes, and if
you like to support somebody on their Patreon, then go and Dan Hughes.
If you like Dan Hughes and
please support
Dan Hughes.
Please help Dan get a new back glass for his vehicle. It got knocked out by some drunk
I think he's trying to buy a Tesla right now. If you want to buy a Tesla, just give Dan Hughes some more money.
They're expensive. Teslas are really, really expensive. What do you guys want to do, though? I mean, what do you want to achieve apart from, Jerry's vacuous desire to have like a Golden Geek Award to make him
adulation.
Think?
He wants constant adulation.
Do you know what? Just to point this out, Jerry, right? You don't want to win.
I don't.
Because when you win, you get taken off the list.
You're out of the conversation.
So you can't compete. You can't get the publicity. You've got to be like you are in life. A gracious runner-up.
Here's a secret. We already completed what we wanted to do with the podcast. I'd often told Gaby prior
to get on We're Not Wizards. There you go, Jerry. That's what you told me to
get on We're Not Wizards. But also to be able to, at one point, I wanted to kind of have connections within the board game community, just in case one day I ever decide to design a board game or something of that nature, that I would have people that could kind of to have those connections. And then I realized one day that me and Bubba is going to have to be the one to design the board game. I'm just not smart enough. And then
are you familiar with Bubba, Richard?
No.
Bubba, he's our fourth member of our podcast that comes on like every 102 episodes. He's actually sitting in the room with me right now, Jerry. He's been
Bubba
listening.
There?
He's been sitting here listening this whole time.
Well, Bubba's the man that will take the board games by storm one day when he designs a game, and I get to be the
he gives us our diversity ratio.
Yes, the co-designer. Bubba's also the person.
Oh my goodness!
He's also the person that we run by all of our jokes and make sure all of our other stuff is socially acceptable. He tends to tone us down. He's the opinion that shapes where the Board Game Snobs go.
But seriously, go ahead, Jerry. Seriously, what do you want from our podcast, Jerry?
I like I said, we were successful. I said one of these days we will have somebody send us a game without us requesting it or asking for it. We're just going to sit and mind our business until one day some big mainstream publisher sends us a game.
Yeah.
And I remember when that happened. WizKids.
Tuesday?
WizKid. No. WizKids sent us a game. Like just up and for no reason, just sent us a game, and we hated it. And we told everybody that we hated it, and then I think we lit it on fire. And then I thought, well, there we go. That's what integrity will get you.
Really,
it was what you need to do.
We did
it was
what we
Star
needed to
Trek
do.
conflict. Star Trek conflict. Enrique wanted to light it on fire. It was a terrible flicking game. Atrocious. Jerry said it was atrocious. But then, what did they send you? Flotilla.
I know. And Flotilla looks kind of decent.
But Jerry has no qualms about asking for a game.
I'll beg. I'll plead. I have no pride. Except
but as for me,
why do you need to beg and plead? I mean, you've got. But are you in? Okay, so are you in for it for that? Because there are people that I know that kind of want it for the. Because I'll tell you something. See, getting free games. And this is going to sound controversial.
Oh, let's go.
It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not that. It's just that I get games sent, and I want to just spend my days creating content upon content upon content upon content.
Exactly.
Because I would just love to set up a game and just muck about with it and just create something out of it, have the characters talking to each other and just doing stupid things. And I'd love to do stuff like that because I don't think there's enough of it, but I'd love to. And then I feel guilty because it's like you get to the point sometimes it's just, oh, better you write a review or you do a video and you're like, I would really love the time to kind of do more, but it takes an awful lot of time to put stuff kind of together.
Well, Richard, that's a pain that we want. If there's any publishers listening, please hurt us badly. That's a pain that we want.
Well, we received a Tasty Minstrels. Minstrel? TMG. They sent us Chrono Corsairs without us asking.
That's nice.
It was atrocious.
We only get sent in games that we hate for some reason.
I like it. No, I like games.
You like
I like getting sent games. I do like getting this because there's something nice about having something new and something you can look over, and there's the excitement there, and then it's an excuse to kind of, try and get my son kind of more involved in games and stuff like that. He's only he's young, he's only 7, but we're trying to get him kind of more involved in the games and kind of away from the kind of screen. Is kind of it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Well, we have clearly said in our podcast, like, look, they sent us to this, and it's they sent it to us, and we appreciate it, but we didn't like it. We're sorry. They probably will never send us games again.
What we're trying to point out is that we have integrity, Richard, just like you. We
do have integrity.
Oh, I don't have integrity. I've never. No, I don't have any integrity. I am and I don't have any integrity.
They got any integrity?
It depends.
William
it's
Wallace.
difficult because depending on who you speak to, you've either got lots of integrity or you've got no integrity. Because there are some people who think that the act of anybody receiving a board game itself automatically makes you kind of losing your integrity, because therefore you owe that because you're then going to write a review. Therefore, receiving the game free is kind of payment. And then there's other people who actively are like, well, if somebody gets paid for a board game review, as long as they're declaring they're getting paid for a board game review, they don't have any issue with it, which is fine. So I don't know. Do you know what? I get ideas and I'm just like, I just want to create that thing because it's funny for me.
What is your ideas, Richard? What are your ideas?
As long as I'm doing something that's funny for me, that's the main thing.
Pretty much.
I'd love to do a song and dance number.
About what?
I'd love to actually just, muck around and sing on stuff. I'd like to do kind of more voices and stuff. Yeah, I used to do musical theatre, so I can do lots of stuff.
Now, I didn't know this. What musical theatre did you do?
I was in West Side Story, Jesus Christ Superstar. I did the Full Monty musical.
I need to know about this Full Monty musical. Who were you?
I played the character of Malcolm, who was the pigeon-chested guy that was the guard at the local factory who tried to gas himself in his car, and then
what musical was this?
the Full Monty musical.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
But at the end,
I bet you haven't.
I bet you have, but you've got it in DVD and Blu-ray. It was fun. No, it was fun. It was absolutely amazing. I've spoken about it before. I spoke about it quite recently, but it was an awful lot of fun to do. Shows are brilliant. That's why I got the buzz for creation. That's why I don't mind about, I guess, going in front of a camera or talking a podcast and showing off or being
deprecating.
Kind of deprecating. Yes, thank you for throwing me a lifeline.
So that's my thing.
I knew in the past, Richard, that you did reviews of video games. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did, and I still do from time to time. I get there's a website out there called Bonus Stage.
Bonus Stage, and I have written reviews on there, and I'm quite happy to, on occasion, write reviews for pretty terrible games, because I think there's nothing more entertaining for yourself than writing a review about a game because the video games is different, because video games you're usually dealing with like a PR company, and they're terrible. It's not like you're phoning up. It's not like you're phoning up kind of phoning up Jamie Stegmaier and going, Jamie, Charstone's rubbish, ha ha. It is rubbish, thing, and just hearing him sob.
hearing him sob on the other side. I've not played Tapestry. I did play Charterstone, and me and my middle son, we've enjoyed it a lot. So we had fun with it. So, you know, and I think I did a video review on it, and I said it's the biggest kind of your mileage may vary game kind of going there, because I know some people that absolutely adore it. Mm-hmm. I know some people that absolutely hate it. So
what's your sidetracking you to video games? What's your favorite video games?
Sure, Jerry. Whatever. You take over this whole conversation.
I'm taking over the podcast.
Richard, I'm going to ask you the question.
No,
if there's
I'm
something
asking
you look
Richard
for, if you look for in interviewees, what quality do you look for?
Series of games. What in interviewees?
Like when you interview people, what keeps you engaged? Have you ever interviewed somebody and they're like, "Oh my God, they're so boring." Oh my God, I don't care what they say. Or do you interview people that you're going to like?
I've interviewed people where the conversation has to go in a certain direction to get them to warm up a bit.
Okay.
So I've always got this rule is that if I walk away from doing an episode and I'm like, that wasn't a great show.
Are you thinking that right now?
Then it's my fault. It's my fault. It's not the guest's fault because the guest hasn't done this.
No, I disagree.
300 odd times. I don't know. I think that there's some people that are naturally quite extrovert and a bit gregarious, or even if they're introverted, they know how to kind of chat and they know how to kind of just be part of a conversation. But I think there's some people who need help in a certain direction and need to reach their comfort zone.
You need to have Enrique on.
This is my thing. I will tell you this. When it comes to people, when it comes to just meeting people, my social circle, and this is perhaps a weakness on my part, I don't appreciate depth. I don't appreciate character. You can philosophize, you can be deep, you can think about the world what you want. Literally, my wife has told me this. All I require is that you make me laugh. If you can crack a joke and make me laugh, we're best friends. Is that a weakness or a positive?
If you just make fart jokes around Gaby.
Exactly.
See? Right there. I just said it. There he is. That's it.
You just said
so I can just I can just do this. I can just go. Tarzan through the jungle with the belly ache. Wants to go to toilet. Too late.
Gold,
That's
Richard. Gold.
That's solid gold. Is that a weakness or is that a plus? I don't know. That's throughout my life. If you've been able to make me laugh, you can be a terrible person, perhaps, but I appreciate you.
You're just
Jeffrey
going down
Dahmer. If Jeffrey Dahmer cracked a few jokes, I'd be a head in his freezer.
You'd be a lampshade quicker than sunset.
He's up there like, I'm killing them. I'm killing it.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. And there's people that have good senses of humor. It's like, they might be terrible people, but I don't know. It's a weakness of mine. If you can make me laugh, and there's very few, and I like certain senses of humor. I like dark humor. I like just whatever. I appreciate old humor. Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello. Who's on first? Whatever. If you can make me laugh. Buster Keaton. Charlie Chaplin.
Buster Keaton.
Exactly.
Anything like that. Not Charlie Chaplin.
No?
Nah, he's not funny.
Really?
Nah, he's not that funny.
Oh, really?
He's not that funny.
He's just dancing around.
He's not that funny. He just dances about and does a smile.
Twirls his cane.
Got his little moustache going on.
Got his Hitler mustache.
Exactly.
So while Gaby's entertained with his fart jokes, I'm going back to the video games. I'm sidetracking this podcast. Tell me, Richard. Tell me.
Yeah.
Your favorite.
Dark Souls. The Dark Souls series of games. I'm currently doing a Soul Level 1 run on Dark Souls, which is where you play the first game, but you don't level up your character. But you level up all your weapons and all your equipment, and you fight through the entire game without leveling up once. So I've been doing that now for a couple of weeks. And it's a challenge on mechanics and stuff like that. And that kind of whole series, the Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, Bloodborne, They're just they're games that I would come back to again and again. I love games like Horizon Zero Dawn was amazing. I thought the new Tomb Raider remake was amazing. Anything along those lines, which
Tomb Raider was amazing.
My absolute bag. You know,
that all sounds very difficult, but I once played Viticulture without the El Grande worker, so I know what you're talking about. So, Dark Souls.
I made a mistake. I made a mistake in Viticulture and that was like one of my moments where it was kind of like, hey, have you ever made a mistake in a game where you learn later on that you were making a mistake in a game and you just ruined your life? And it's like, yeah, Viticulture. When I thought that when you planted the vines, that when you harvested the grapes, you removed the vines.
Oh, yeah, that's a big mistake.
Rather than keeping the vines planted, we all read the rules wrong. Well, when I say we, I mean myself.
So
read the rules wrong, and then therefore every time somebody harvested some grapes, they removed the vines out, and it meant that it took ages, literally ages,
and nobody
for
stopped
anybody.
you. Nobody stopped you. There was no divine intervention.
There was nobody that went, "Hey, this is bullshit." There's nobody that kind of stopped and went, this is extraordinarily difficult for me to actually have any grapes in the presser ready to make wine. So I realised that kind of later on, and
so
do you know what happened when I realised that mistake? Well, do you know what happened when I realised that mistake? Nothing, because it's just a board game. Stop taking everything so seriously.
So what are some of your favorite games? You don't have to say your number one, number two, whatever. Just like what are some of your what is your favorite games?
My favorite game. I'm just going to turn around and have a look at my cupboard.
Okay.
That's French for closet.
Cupboard.
Jean-Luc Cupboard. He's the weird uncle that hid in the closet.
Jean-Luc
Cupboard. Drinking Merlot.
You need to stop talking about that.
I'm sorry.
I thought it was Merlot.
A line must be drawn here.
Merlot is Merlin's evil cousin. But he's not a wizard. Maybe Richard is Merlot.
Maybe
we're not
Merlot.
Wizards. I'm Merlot.
What was I going to say? Right, okay, stop it. Is it secret? Is it safe?
I am the last one.
Full of a took. Ashes Rise of the Phoenix Born has always been a really firm favourite of mine. I really like Viticulture, which is nice.
That's my previously number one game. I love that game. I love it solo.
The Captain is Dead.
That's a good one.
Wait, which one? Captain is Dead?
Captain is Dead.
A co-op, eh? Jerry said he didn't care for that one.
It was okay.
Jerry, Richard,
I don't like
fight.
co-ops.
Go.
I don't like having to cooperate with people, but it was better than Pandemic.
I've been getting my teeth around Anachrony.
Oh, that's a good one. Anachrony's a good one.
That's a good game. But that's about it.
Okay. Who's your favorite guests that you've ever had on the show, and why was it us?
Who's my favorite guest? Who's your favorite guest that we've ever had on
Besides
the show?
Ben Maddox. Ben Maddox is pretty good.
You're now on our show.
Yeah, but then
we're cross recording.
I'm just trying to think. Who's my favorite guest? Oh, that's so difficult because they're like all my children, and I kind of really. Do you know what I like? My favorite type. Do you know what my favorite type of guest is? The type of person that you just get into a laugh and a joke and a conversation, and then you realize that you need to press the record button at some point because you're having. You just start talking to somebody and you instantly kind of feel comfortable and relaxed with them. That you then go, oh, we better start kind of recording. So,
you're welcome.
I always
Thank
have
you.
I always have a lot of fun. I always have a lot of fun with just trying to think. Bez, they've always been really, really good fun. I mean, I can't like Mike. I mean, in all fairness, Mike Delisio is really, really nice to kind of.
He's a pleasure.
They're really, really nice to talk to. I'm just trying to think. really, really good fun. Or not really, really good fun, but just really, really interesting. Daniel Newman, I don't like the man, but he's always good for a laugh. John, and he's like that. John Gilmore was pretty fun. There's just so, like, I'm going down, there's just like so many people that I could just say, but they were all individually like good fun and good times, and I ended up spending kind of like an hour talking to these people, but I mean, there's certain ones that you'll remember, that you kind of, they'll stick out, that were always kind of really interesting. I don't really go in assuming kind of a lot about people, and in fact, sometimes I'll not even bother kind of doing a huge amount of research, because I want to find out things that I think there's something really sincere about a genuine reaction to somebody's kind of situation as well. Do you know what I mean? Because I know of so many things that's like, well, that's why I generally don't kind of do show notes and big lists of questions as well, because I don't.
Yeah.
I think if you look too much into the person, then it's too easy to kind of make assumptions, basically.
Yeah, I've noticed on your Twitter, you'll like just tweet and you're like, show notes will come later.
Yeah. And they're usually in the episode.
I try to retweet you. I mean, just FYI.
It's just usually a little bit of a list. It's usually just a little bit of a list.
But yet I noticed you never retweet us. That's interesting.
Well, that's because you're not paying me enough, if anything at all. So
we'll set up a Patreon.
And I'm really rubbish. I'm rubbish at that. Remember, and it's like, and we've already established that if we're doing Patreons, we're talking about Dan Hughes.
Right.
No,
but
he's going to be so
please donate to Dan Hughes' Patreon.
Yes.
He needs
and our
that
thousands
computer.
of listeners will be listening to this. So, Richard, if they need to find you, where could they find you at? Like, where would they go to find where you're at?
Richard,
Like,
on your own
you?
podcast, tell us where we can find you.
How could people hear more of the smooth interviews?
Well, if you go to we'renotwizards.com, you'll find the podcast.
.asmr.
If you go to werenotwizards.co.uk, you'll find all the reviews. Oh, yeah. If you want to look at the photographs, if you go to instagram.com/werenotwizards. If you like to look at the videos, it's youtube.com/c/werenotwizards tabletop podcast.
I do enjoy you. Hey, Richard, on your videos.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you have a microphone?
I'm sorting out when I've got a lav mic that I'm going to start using.
I was like, I listened to your second most recent one, not the Media Empire, but the one before that. And I was like, Richard, come on, get a microphone.
Yeah, I know. That's all sorted out. It's all getting, because I'm gonna be doing
and you need that. To get that, go to Richard's Patreon and donate so he can get it.
Don't. Patreon.com/werenotwizards.
There you go.
There you go. Shilling for myself. Where can we find you on the internet webs, though?
Are we on the internet?
Because it's just a great big light that shines in the sky, and it's been sending us all
go to the
this
Board Game
information.
Snobs shining light in the clouds, and you'll see us. It looks like
and it's not even sending us through the mail, and that's good because I don't even have to write back. I can just look at the screen, and I can just type what I want, and sometimes it comes up. And sometimes I search in the search history, and I get all different types of stories as well. And do you realize something, that there's more than 2 types of music as well, apart from country and western? It blew my
Don't
mind.
you dare
There's
blend country
bluegrass.
and western. That's 2 different things.
Just meet us down by the Home Depot, and
You can find. You search any.
Tell you what, you bring the bottle of 8-Ball, and I'll bring ourselves some smokes, and we'll have ourselves the best time.
Richard, we had a friend of our podcast send me all sorts of beef jerkies. Jerry, I ate them all. I'm sorry. They're gone.
What? You ate the meats?
They're gone. Sorry.
You ate the Louisiana meats?
They're gone.
You
They're
ate
gone.
all the Scott's
For
meat.
goodness sake.
They're gone. I ate them all. I will have to purchase more on my own a penny, which I won't do. But yeah, he sent them. I ate them. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm confessing this on this podcast.
There you go. And on that note,
Board Game Snobs on pretty much any podgrass. Okay, I've had one too many. I've been drinking Glenlivet in honor of you, Richard.
Ding 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 ding.
What? Okay, so in Scotland itself, in Scotland itself, is there like a preferred? Is there like a Bud Light of Scottish whiskeys?
Richard doesn't drink.
I don't drink, so I don't know.
Drink.
I don't
He
care.
would know that. No. He would know that if you did your research, Gaby.
No, I did do my research, but I guess I missed that episode. Okay,
right.
Well then I've been drinking Glenlivet.
I'm calling this to a close because it's turning into a dumpster fire that's going down the river, and everybody's having a great time cooking s'mores.
There you go.
This is a good dumpster fire, though.
BoardGameSnobs.com.
That's the best. It's the best dumpster fire.
I really like that your impersonations are spot on. I feel warm.
Thank you.
You feel like a third cousin twice removed to me.
Well, that's good because you can also call me Uncle, which is the same thing.
You can anytime you're down here in southeastern Oklahoma, you just stop in.
Because the stars at night are big and bright.
Deep in the heart of Texas. That's good stuff right there. Now I'm on board.
That's amazing. There's only two more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. I feel really kind of cagey about asking people from America if they're wizards now. Because it's like,
no, some people in our area are wizards, but we, Gaby and I, are not wizards, nor ever have been.
We're just snobs.
Clear?
That's clear as.
Thank you.
It's clear as the.
This is going to get blown up
something that's clear.
This is going to get blown up on Twitter.
It is.
This is why I'm.
But we'll deal with it.
We'll deal with it.
We'll stand side by side.
We'll promote this on our end as well,
We'll stand side by
Richard.
side and we'll fight them all.
And you'll get ones of additional listeners.
That's more than I need and more than I deserve. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Lord Punnington himself, the rather wonderful,
I've had a pun
the
time.
rather fantastic, the follically challenged wonder and joy.
Thank you.
Is Gaby.
Appreciate that.
Say goodbye, Gaby.
Bye-bye.
And he's sweet, he's delicious, he's crunchy. That's because he's a baker. It's Jerry Baker. Say goodbye, Jerry.
Y'all have a nice day. A very nice day.
Sure will.
I'm taking my shirt off
and
now.
it's a good... I've already had mine off for hours. And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe. Roll sixes. Make something awful. Until the next time. Y'all come back now. You hear?
Bye-bye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.